You're probably wondering why there's a need for such a long workflow, as kind of complicated workflow, in order to get hand-drawn cells scanned into a program like Animate Pro. Animate is a professional level application. This workflow has been around for a long time. You'd think it would be nailed down, and it hasn't, especially in Animate Pro. It is a nightmare. It seems everything has gone towards something like a Cintiq or a Flash workflow, and paper animation has just been left on the side. The workflow that I've created, as far as I know, is not just the best way to do it, it is the only way to do this. I will show you the reasons why and so many of the problems that show up while doing this regularly, as they say to do this in the manual and their tutorials. Here's the scene open, and I'm just going to go File, Import, and Scanner. The Brother scanner does show up. It's going to click Scan. Here's all the settings that I normally have. All right, once it's done, you press Cancel, which is kind of strange. And just zoom this out a little bit. There you see the peg holes are on this side. It hasn't rotated it. There's no way in the Twain driver to actually rotate when the scan is coming in from the scanner. I have been told from Toon Boom that there is no way to rotate it after the Twain driver. The other thing is, you'll notice here, down here, is frame 205. Now, you can see the numbers just fine right here. Once I close this, and I'm going to go black and white for my vectorization, I'm going to create a new layer, Scene 05 Spanko. Now, it brings in, vectorizes. As you can see here, this has been vectorized. It's all fantastic. It is frame 1, not frame 205. There was no way to be able to tell it that this is frame 205. I get that. But for some reason, the actual name of the cell has been cut off. There's no way to read that. It is cut in half. It was scanned, it came in, but there's no way to look at this and say, hey, this is frame 205. You just have to know it. Now, that is just bringing in the cell. So what about renaming? Well, in order to rename, I understand why they do this, but it is frustrating to rename it. You can't just press enter and then type in the name. That actually calls that cell to be another already pre-named cell. So if you have like 300 cells scanned in and they're all actually numbered correctly, 1 to 300, and you type in 255, that means it's going to just, in that individual cell, it would pull up frame 255, not rename it 255. So you have to go in, and I know the shortcut for that is Apple D. So rename drawing. I know this one is 205. Okay, so that's that. Now, what happens if I have to scan in more stuff? What happens if I have to scan in batches because I have a really, really long scene? Well, I'll show you that. I've scanned in a few extra cells here. Actually rescanned cell 205 and also several others that come after it. Here is a scanner album. Once again, there is no rotate command in here or any way to name these. So you can see that's 215, 213, 211, 209, 207, and 205. I'm going to close this. I want to add it to this layer because they're all part of the same layer. Black and white. All right. It pushed 205 all the way down to the bottom. Which... Nope, can't do that. What is it? hidden key command. There it is. So this cell and this cell are actually the same thing. I need to get rid of this one and replace it with this cell. Let's just say that the first one I scanned in is a problem. So I'm just going to hit delete. Go in, Apple D to rename 205. Oh, I can't do that. There's already a drawing named 205. Why is there still a drawing named 205? I deleted it. Oh, undo. I still did it. Okay. Maybe if I clear it. Okay. Let's try that again. Still can't do it. Okay, that's annoying. Okay, how do I rename this cell to what I know it's supposed to be? Okay, so I have to rename this one some massively arbitrary number. Then delete it. Then rename this one. Seriously, that's how you have to rename something if the number's already taken. I know that this one is actually 209, but that's already taken here. And I know this one's 211, and that one's already taken. So I have to, I guess, name from the bottom up. But as you can see, I can't read the numbers here. This is really frustrating. I mean, this is a basic functionality. You can't bring in and rename cells if you don't know what they are. That means you have to sit there with a stack of animation next to you and sit and compare with your neck tilted to the right. Let's just try to rotate these. Now, the reposition all with the arrow key is the only one that will work. Now, you do notice that it does look like it is registered. But what a complete pain in the ass. And that is absolutely horrible. What happens if you actually rotate these and then you have to go in and scan another section? If you have a problem with a cell, you don't notice until after you've already rotated it. That means you have to go back in and hope they line up. This workflow that Toon Boom has set up for Animate Pro for hand-drawn animation, I'm sorry, there's no other way to put it. It's crap. The software paints fine. It brings everything in fine, as long as the files are set up properly. I will show you how to do that, and do that very, very, hopefully a lot easier than the massive frustration that you end up dealing with Animate Pro. Now, if you have a Cintiq and you're going directly in with something like that, or you're just doing like puppet tool animation, you don't have to worry about any of this. A lot of animation studios are kind of going that way, and Toon Boom has geared this definitely more towards them. But for them to just kind of completely drop the ball and leave paper animation out of an animation software package made for professionals is really bad. Now, the rest of this workflow will knock out all this stuff, and we'll be able to bring all these files in. They will be oriented correctly. They will be named correctly. And they will look correct. Now, they'll also have the ability to have the actual files for archive purposes. If you have to go back to the original scans, you have those files. And here's the file structure. When it brings in, it's a TVG file. This is a proprietary Toon Boom file. I understand why they do that. It's perfectly all right. But the workflow I'll show you actually gives you organized, renamed, and properly oriented animation cells. The first thing you need to do is set up your scanner, and that is something I'll show you next.